My name is Kacem Zoughari from France. I live in Japan for a couple of years as a researcher, invited researcher scholar. Right now, because of COVID, it's difficult to go back in Japan, but it's going to be soon. And I teach a little bit around the world before COVID. And now that it's possible to do, I'm right now in America in the office and dojo of the Onmitsu Kage corporation. Of course, with Mark, who's going to ask me some questions and many questions that people ask to the Onmitsu Kage board. So thanks for that. I'm going to try to answer the best that I can.
Hey, speaking of which, how does it feel to be traveling again overseas? I know you've been going a little bit in Europe.
Yes.
Now you're back over here.
Yes.
It must be nice to see people. It's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years, it's been too long. I mean, it looks like it was yesterday. Actually, this is what we always said to the people we love. Oh, it was just like yesterday, especially when there is great relationship. I'm going in America. Before COVID, it was about 8 to 9 times per year. Whatever is with Daryl or Brandon, Samir, and Justin, or Joshua, and also Sam. So I cover pretty much all part of the States, more or less, but for me it's enough. So being able to come back here, well, it's great. It's really great from the heart.
Awesome. It's
Yes.
great to see you too, man.
Well, thanks.
So, speaking of your training and your background, you've been a student of Ishizuka Dojo since you were a teenager. You started when you were 16, 17 years old?
First time I came in Japan, yes.
And so how many years has it been since you started training there?
I don't count.
You
I don't count.
It's been a long time.
I think the true practice is not something you should count. Now, if you start to counting how many years you've practiced, you never practice. Saying you're a student of that master means you're not a student of that master. The way you practice, the way you behave, your knowledge, the way you move is the proof of the relationship with the art. And if there is a relationship with the art, there is automatically a relationship with the master. The shadow of the master is always behind the disciple. There is no doubt on that, especially if you practice the right way. And this, whatever the art, whatever the style, whatever the you are, even in sports, martial art, even in boxing, a great coach in boxing will put his print in the boxer. And when the boxer go high and reach the summit, he will always recognize and be thankful to the coach. Of course, some boxers change coach because training needs to change. But here, this is the things in sports, martial art. There is money included, there is stats, there is things. Classical martial art is different. You don't change parents. Some people help you to understand your parents. Some people help you to respect more your parents, to understand their difficulties and why they are like this. And maybe one day you make the peace with them, but you don't change parent and you don't change master.
So unlike sports martial arts, at least in the classical sense, it's less of a transaction, more of a relationship, you could say.
Well, I don't think we should go to that. I mean, you need a relationship. No matter what, there is transaction. Actually, in any kind of relationship, there is a kind of transaction. Now, it depends how it starts and how it ends, if it ends. Sometimes you can betray, you will, and that part also of the relationship growing and to understand how things works. It is difficult to say, but when I said it's different, it is not different in the human perspective, it's different on the long term. It's on the long term, and it's also the goal and the purpose. If you're a coach, you want to bring your protégé to the best level. And it might work for a couple of times, and then maybe the protégé wants to learn something else. If you cover him and say, do the way I do, it works, but now it doesn't work. There is a moment where, of course, a certain separation can be very benefic and for the both parts. Sometimes not. It depends, and maybe also it's a time also to keep to change way, to change path. It is difficult to say. Everyone have his own way of looking things, but in classical martial art there is a differences. the shape, the way, the technique, for example, the 9 ryuha we practice, or even if you take every famous ryuha of Japan who are born in the 14th, 15th century, their technique, their vision of life have been shaped by their environment. They are the product of their environment. If the environment is about trouble time, civil war, where the technique is necessary first to survive, second to sell your skill, and to establish something. Well, you can be sure that the technique are not made for score or being a champion. There is no champion. It's dead or alive, invade or being invaded, killed or be killed. So in that case, the techniques are very dangerous. First, they are made for killing. It's homicide art, if I may say. And the relationship, the trust in this relationship is at the summit. One mistake, it's over. So this is what have shaped classical martial art in any ryo, and especially the one who have been created in the 14th, 15th century and 16th century. Then step by step, when we go into in a period of peace, well, people who born there, people who learn there, it's a little bit different. So you have to get into a new perspective, a new vision. Teaching doesn't go the same way. It's still two people, two human beings who interfere. So there is a kind of transaction. And then let's see where it's going to be. Classical martial arts is still different. And it depends also on the character of the master, who he is, how he learn, how he grow, if he just shut down or if he's open to the world. And sometimes, you can have great master and stupid student. You have this case, maybe you can have great coach and bad proteges. And sometimes you have great student and bad master. As long as they go along for a certain result, it's fine. And this is, for example, for every world that deals with competition, modern sports, etc. Now, when he deals with classical martial art, you sign for life. You sign for life. But then, of course, it depends if the master accepts you or not. When you talk about Ishizuka Sensei, first of all, when I went in his dojo, I was like every foreigner. Ishizuka Sensei will always welcome any foreigner. There is no problem, but that doesn't mean you become his student. Students study, so you go to his dojo, you learn, doesn't mean you're a student. Back in the days, everyone was going in every dojo, learning from each shihan. And Hatsumi Sensei, before he had the Honbu and before he gave class to the Tokyo Budokan Ayase, he was giving class in different shihan dojo. Ishizuka Sensei have a quite big dojo in Kashiwa back in those days. He was giving class there, but also class in the dojo of Someya shihan and sometimes on Noguchi shihan, even Kobayashi shihan as well. So many, go in there and change. I went there, I stay. Now, some people want to claim they are students of Ishizuka Sensei after 2 classes, 1 trip, and especially nowadays. Where are those same people who were bad-mouthing him a few years ago? Where are those same people? I never saw them build the dojo of Ishizuka Sensei. I never saw them in Ishizuka Sensei's parents' funeral. No. I think it's so easy to use the name of a master in order to back up yourself and to hide your mediocrity. I'm not saying you cannot be good. I'm not saying you cannot change. Oh yes, you can change. Oh yes, you can grow better. But that costs a lot. If you're already mediocre and you want to sell yourself as great, this is, first, it's not Ishizuka Sensei because Ishizuka Sensei doesn't sell himself. So this is a proof already that they are not disciple, student of him. They might go in his dojo, but it means nothing. It's not because you go to a church or you go to a synagogue or a mosque that automatically you are a devoted disciple or a devoted believers. It requires more. A relationship takes time, a lot of time. You might have some separation, might have some bad fuse, sometimes problem in the understanding, problem of communication too. That's all what makes the relationship. And then there is some people who are patient, and then there is some people who match through the art, by the love of his art. And the master recognizes himself in the disciple. When there is this, you can call this Ishin Denshin, you can call this like a master-disciple relationship. Ishin Denshin means kokoro demote, kokoro ni tsutai, which means a transmission that goes from the heart, from the mind, from the soul to the soul. So there is no words. It's like when they are in phase, they understand each other. It's deep. It doesn't have to talk. It's pretty much the same things, the same love of the mother or parents. They know what to give to the kids before the kids ask. You know, sometimes there is some people love you so much, you're thirsty or something like that. They are here already and they doesn't ask you to give you back. There is no give back. So when you practice like this already inside you, and the master can see, can perceive inside the one he have in the front of him, if yes or not. Why? Because he's been through this. Plus, Ishizuka Sensei now is 73, 74. He's seen a lot. He's seen a lot. And I'm not talking about Hatsumi Sensei, who see more because he's older. Now, I don't think, there is people who go to his dojo. There is also some foreigners who live in Japan, and they go to his class. It doesn't mean nothing. The movement talk. The movement is the truth. So, honestly speaking, the best is to ask Ishizuka Sensei, Aida-san, Ogawa-san, and the answer will be clear. Even in the dojo of Ishizuka Sensei, there is only one name writing on the nafuda, even if it's not the proof, but anyway. There is some people in the past, beginning, end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, some foreigner who used to come a lot to Ishizuka Sensei's dojo, and he liked them. But you know, it's not because a teacher likes you. After there is some separation because of life. You get married, you have kids, you don't have time to practice, etc., etc. Or you're too much involved into the politics and stuff like that, like there is in any organization. And the master grew, the student changed his way, because the master or true master is always growing. A true master is always changing, evolving. He's never like yesterday. Each day is a better version of himself. And if you don't follow that, you're not a student. You're not a disciple. And if you always bring about, yes, Ishizuka Sensei told me, yeah, na. So it's like you need to sell yourself, and it's the same with Hatsumi Sensei. How many people all around the world in the Bujinkan before COVID was always said, Hatsumi Sensei said, and then they do their things. And when you looked at, oh yes, there is what he said, first, how he said, who was the translator, who was the people around, what was the context of this, and then there is what you do, the movement, and the movement sucks. You know, I think we should not be surprised to see that we are at the end of the food chain of classical martial arts, if I may say like that. Huh? Or some people want to blame on Hatsumi Sensei, but go to meet him and fight him or try him, and you will see.